The Chicago wind carried the sharp bite of autumn through the streets of River North, rattling the windows of the Copper Rose as Maya Chen wiped down the polished mahogany bar for the third time that evening. At 24, she'd learned that a clean bar meant good tips, and good tips meant making rent on time in one of the most expensive neighborhoods in the city. The Friday night crowd was building, a mix of after-work professionals loosening their ties, couples on dates seeking the bar's notorious craft beverages, and regulars who treated their corner booths like second offices. The exposed brick walls absorbed the hum of conversation, punctuated by bursts of laughter and the clinking of glasses. Edison bulbs hung from copper fixtures, casting warm amber light across faces flushed with alcohol and weekend anticipation. Maya tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear, her movements efficient and practiced. She'd been working at the Copper Rose for 2 years, ever since dropping out of culinary school when her father's medical bills started piling up. The dream of opening her own cafe had been carefully folded away, replaced by the immediate reality of survival in a city that didn't offer second chances. "Maya, table 7 needs another round," Jamie, the other server on shift, called out while balancing a tray of appetizers. Her red hair was already escaping its ponytail, a sure sign the night was accelerating. "Got it." Maya grabbed her notepad and weaved through the crowded floor, her practiced smile firmly in place. Table 7 was occupied by a group of finance bros celebrating someone's promotion. They were loud, slightly intoxicated but harmless, the kind of customers who tipped well if you laughed at their jokes and kept the drinks flowing. Maya took their order, dodged a clumsy attempt at flirtation, and headed back to the bar. "Busy night," Marcus the bartender observed as he expertly poured a perfect Guinness. At 52, with salt and pepper hair and steady hands, Marcus had worked every bar worth mentioning in Chicago. He'd seen it all, which made his calm presence reassuring during chaotic shifts. "Just how I like it," Maya replied, loading drinks onto her tray. "Busy means money. Busy also means trouble's more likely to walk through that door." Marcus nodded toward the entrance where a man in an expensive suit had just entered, his gait unsteady, his face already red. Maya's stomach tightened. She recognized him immediately. Richard Ashford, a regular problem. Wealthy, entitled, and incapable of handling his alcohol. Over the past month he'd become increasingly difficult, making inappropriate comments to the female staff and arguing with other patrons. Last week, the manager had to intervene when Richard refused to settle his tab. "Not him again," Jamie muttered, appearing beside Maya. "He got banned last month. How did he get past Danny?" Danny the doorman was nowhere to be seen, probably helping someone with a cab. Richard spotted an empty seat at the bar and made his way over, bumping into chairs and ignoring the annoyed looks from other customers. "Ladies," he announced loudly, his words slurring together, "the party has arrived." Marcus shot Maya a warning look. "I'll handle him." But Richard's attention had already locked onto Maya. "There's my favorite server. Maya, right? Come here, sweetheart. Let's talk about that drink you owe me." Maya kept her expression neutral, her voice professional. "Good evening, sir. I'm afraid we're at capacity tonight. Perhaps another establishment." "Don't give me that corporate nonsense." Richard leaned against the bar, invading her space. His breath reeked of whiskey. He'd clearly been drinking before arriving. "I'm a paying customer. You work here. Now get me a double scotch." "Sir, our manager left specific instructions." "Your manager isn't here." Richard's voice rose, drawing attention from nearby tables. "I don't see him anywhere, do you?" The bar's atmosphere shifted subtly. Conversations quieted. People turned to watch. Maya felt the familiar flutter of anxiety in her chest. But years of customer service had taught her to keep calm under pressure. "I understand you're upset," she said evenly, "but I'm going to have to ask you to leave. If you'd like, I can call you a car." "I don't want a car." Richard slammed his hand on the bar, making glasses rattle. "I want a drink and I want you to show some respect." Marcus stepped forward, his barrel chest a silent warning. "That's enough. Time to go." Richard's face darkened. In the span of a heartbeat, the entitled businessman transformed into something uglier. "You think you can throw me out? Do you know who I am? Do you know how much money I spend in this city?" "We know exactly who you are," Marcus said calmly. "That's why you're leaving." What happened next unfolded in that strange, slow-motion way that crisis moments often do. Richard reached across the bar, his fingers closing around Maya's wrist with surprising strength. She tried to pull back, but his grip tightened, his nails digging into her skin. "Let go," she said firmly, her heart hammering against her ribs. You disrespectful. Richard raised his other hand, his palm open, anger distorting his features. Maya flinched, bracing for impact. It never came. Between one breath and the next, a figure materialized beside Richard, a tall man in a charcoal suit, moving with the kind of fluid precision that suggested complete control. His hand caught Richard's wrist mid-air, stopping the motion entirely. The stranger's grip looked almost casual, but Richard's face went white, his mouth opening in a silent gasp of pain. The bar fell absolutely silent. Maya found herself staring at her unexpected defender. He was tall, easily 6'3", with dark hair styled with careless elegance and a face that might have been handsome if not for the cold authority radiating from every feature. His eyes were dark, almost black in the amber light, and when they fixed on Richard they held no warmth whatsoever. You have 3 seconds to let her go, the stranger said. His voice was quiet, barely above a conversational tone, but it carried through the silent bar like a judge delivering sentence. After that, what happens to your hand becomes your responsibility. Richard released Maya immediately, stumbling backward. His earlier bravado had evaporated completely, replaced by something that looked disturbingly like terror. Mr. Caruso, Richard stammered. I wasn't. You were about to put your hands on someone who can't defend themselves. The stranger, Caruso, still held Richard's wrist, his expression unchanged. In my city, in my neighborhood, after being warned to stay away from this establishment. I'm so sorry, you were just leaving. Caruso released him with a small shove that sent Richard stumbling toward the door. And you won't come back. Not here, not to any establishment within 10 blocks. Are we clear? Richard nodded frantically, backing toward the exit. Yes, absolutely clear. I'm going. I'm sorry, Mr. Caruso, I didn't mean any disrespect. He was gone before finishing the sentence, practically running through the door and disappearing into the Chicago night. The silence stretched for another beat. Then, like a spell breaking, the bar gradually returned to life. Conversations resumed in hushed tones, though Maya noticed people were very carefully not looking at the man standing beside her. Caruso turned to face her properly, and Maya got her first real look at him. Mid-30s, she estimated, with the kind of presence that made the air around him feel heavier. His suit was impeccably tailored, definitely custom, probably Italian. A thin scar traced along his left jawline, barely visible. His hands, now resting casually at his sides, were surprisingly elegant for someone who just manhandled Richard into submission. Are you hurt? His voice had lost its threatening edge, becoming almost gentle. Maya looked down at her wrist where red marks were already forming. I'm fine. Thank you for intervening. You're not fine. You're shaking. He gestured to Marcus. Water, please. And some ice. I can handle my own staff, Marcus said, but there was no real challenge in his voice. He was already filling a glass, wrapping ice in a clean towel. Maya accepted both gratefully, pressing the ice to her wrist. The cold helped center her, pushing back the adrenaline that was making her hands tremble. Really, I appreciate your help, but I've dealt with difficult customers before. That wasn't a difficult customer. Caruso's eyes met hers directly. That was a predator testing boundaries. The next time, he would have been bolder. The time after that, he would have followed you to your car. The certainty in his voice sent a chill down Maya's spine, primarily because she suspected he was right. She'd seen the pattern before. Entitled men who escalated slowly, testing what they could get away with. Well, I don't think he'll be coming back, she managed. He won't. It wasn't a prediction. It was a fact. Jamie appeared at Maya's elbow, her eyes wide. Are you okay? That was insane. I can't believe... She stopped abruptly, finally registering who was standing there. Her face went pale. Oh my God. Caruso's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Awareness, perhaps, or resignation. I should go. You've had enough excitement for one evening. He turned to leave, moving with that same controlled grace. Maya watched him go, her mind racing with questions. The other patrons parted for him instinctively, creating a clear path to the door. No one spoke to him. No one met his eyes. Wait, Maya heard herself call out. I didn't catch your name. He paused at the threshold, glancing back over his shoulder. The corner of his mouth lifted in something that wasn't quite a smile. Dominic. Then he was gone, disappearing into the Chicago night as suddenly as he'd appeared. The bar erupted in whispered conversation the moment the door closed behind him. Maya felt Jamie grab her arm, pulling her toward the back hallway where they kept supplies and could speak semi-privately. "Do you have any idea who that was?" Jamie's whisper was almost frantic. "That was Dominic Caruso. The Dominic Caruso." Maya shook her head, still processing. "Should that name mean something to me? Are you serious?" Jamie looked around nervously, as if afraid he might reappear. Maya, he runs the entire South Side. Him and his family control half the businesses in Chicago. My cousin works at a restaurant that pays them for protection. Everyone knows the Caruso name." The ice pack suddenly felt heavier in Maya's hand. "Protection from what?" "From everything. From anyone who wants to cause trouble." Jamie's eyes were still wide. "They're connected, Maya. Seriously connected. The kind of people you don't want to owe favors to." Marcus appeared, his expression unreadable. "Jamie, get back to your tables. Maya, take 5 minutes, then we need you on the floor. It's going to be a long night, and people are going to be asking questions." Jamie squeezed Maya's arm once more before heading back to the dining room. Maya leaned against the wall, letting her head fall back against the cool brick. Her wrist throbbed dully where Richard had grabbed her, but that discomfort was nothing compared to the confusion swirling through her thoughts. "Marcus," she said quietly, "is what Jamie said true?" The older bartender sighed, running a hand over his face. "It's complicated. The Caruso family has been in Chicago for 3 generations. They own legitimate businesses, restaurants, construction companies, real estate, but they also operate in areas that aren't exactly legal. And Dominic took over the family operations about 10 years ago, when his father retired." Marcus chose his words carefully. "By all accounts, he's smart, careful, and absolutely ruthless when he needs to be. But he also has rules. No innocent people get caught in the crossfire. No chaos in neighborhoods where families live. He keeps order." "Order?" Maya tested the word. "That's an interesting way to describe organized crime. In a city like Chicago?" Marcus shrugged. "Sometimes the line between law and order gets blurry. All I know is that since the Carusos took control of this area, the random break-ins stopped. The street harassment disappeared. Small businesses don't get shaken down by every 2-bit hustler looking for easy money. Is it legal? No. Is it better than the alternative? That's for each person to decide." Maya absorbed this information, trying to reconcile it with the man who'd defended her. Dominic Caruso had moved with absolute confidence, the kind that came from never doubting his place in the world. People had been afraid of him, genuinely, visibly afraid. But when he'd looked at her, asked if she was hurt, his concern had seemed authentic. Why would someone like that be here tonight? She wondered aloud. Marcus gave her a long look. The Copper Rose is in his territory. He probably owns the building or knows the person who does. Men like that keep track of everything happening in their neighborhood. So he was just, what? Making rounds. Maybe. Or maybe he came in for a drink and happened to be in the right place at the right time. Marcus placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Either way, you're safe. Richard won't be back, and word will spread quickly that you're under Caruso's notice. No one else will cause trouble either. That should have been comforting. Instead, Maya felt a knot of unease forming in her stomach. I don't want to be under anyone's notice. I just want to do my job and go home. I know, kid, but sometimes life doesn't give us a choice about who notices us. Marcus headed back toward the bar. 5 minutes, then back to work. We've got customers waiting. Maya remained in the hallway, pressing the ice pack against her wrist and trying to process everything that had happened in the span of 15 minutes. Through the doorway, she could see the bar slowly returning to normal. People were drinking, laughing, pretending the incident had never happened. But she caught the occasional glance in her direction, the whispered conversations that stopped when she got too close. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from her roommate, Sophia. Working late tonight, don't wait up. Also, did you remember to pay the electric bill? Reality crashed back in. The electric bill, the water bill, her father's medication costs, the student loans from her abandoned culinary dreams. Maya couldn't afford to lose this job. She couldn't afford to become someone interesting, someone memorable, someone who attracted attention from dangerous men. But as she straightened her uniform and prepared to return to the floor, she couldn't shake the memory of Dominic Caruso's eyes, dark, intelligent, and completely unreadable. She'd seen something there, just for a moment. Not threat or manipulation, but genuine concern. Don't be naive, she told herself firmly. Men like that don't do anything without a reason. The rest of the shift passed in a blur of orders and forced smiles. Maya deliberately avoided thinking about the incident. focusing instead on the familiar rhythm of work, taking orders, delivering food, making small talk with regulars who knew nothing about what had transpired. Around midnight, as the crowd began to thin, Marcus called her over to the bar. "This was left for you." He slid an envelope across the polished wood. Maya stared at it. Heavy cream paper, her name written across the front in elegant script. "Who?" "The guy in the gray suit brought it about an hour ago, said he was instructed to deliver it specifically to you." With trembling fingers, Maya opened the envelope. Inside was a single card, expensive stock with embossed lettering. The message was brief. "If you experience any further difficulties, call this number. DC." Below the initials was a phone number with a Chicago area code. "You're not going to use that, are you?" Jamie had appeared beside her, eyes fixed on the card. Maya carefully slipped the card back into the envelope. Of course not. But even as she said it, she wasn't entirely sure she believed herself. She tucked the envelope into her apron pocket, feeling its weight like a talisman against her hip for the rest of her shift. At 2 a.m., the Copper Rose finally closed. Maya helped with cleanup, counting her tips. Surprisingly generous tonight, as if people were trying to show solidarity after the incident. Marcus had been right about one thing. Word had definitely spread. The October wind hit her face as she stepped outside, carrying the scent of rain and fallen leaves. Chicago at night was a different animal, beautiful in its harsh way, with the skyline glittering against the dark lake and the streets mostly empty of the crowds that choked them during daylight hours. Maya pulled her jacket tighter and started the 6-block walk to the L station. She'd made this walk hundreds of times, usually feeling safe in the well-lit streets of River North. Tonight, though, she found herself hyper-aware of every shadow, every footstep echoing behind her. Halfway to the station, she noticed a black car keeping pace with her on the street, a sleek sedan with tinted windows. Her heart rate jumped. She walked faster. The car maintained its distance, neither approaching nor falling back. "Don't panic," she told herself. "Lots of cars drive down this street." But when she turned the corner, the car turned too. Maya's hand slipped into her pocket, fingers closing around her phone. She should call the police. Or Sophia. Or... Her thumb brushed against the envelope. "No," she thought firmly. "Absolutely not. I am not calling that number." She reached the L station without incident. The car didn't follow her up the stairs, and by the time she was sitting on the train heading south toward her apartment in Pilsen, she'd almost convinced herself she'd imagined the whole thing. The train car was nearly empty. Just her, a tired-looking nurse in scrubs, and a student with headphones, head bobbing to inaudible music. Maya watched the city slide past the windows, familiar neighborhoods marked by their distinct characteristics. The Loop with its towering buildings, Chinatown with its red lanterns, and finally Pilsen with its colorful murals and trendy coffee shops slowly replacing older family businesses. Her apartment was in a converted warehouse building, cheap by Chicago standards, which meant only moderately overpriced. She climbed 3 flights of stairs, her feet aching in her work shoes, and let herself into the dark apartment. Sophia's bedroom door was closed, soft music emanating from within. Maya dropped her bag on the kitchen counter and headed straight for her own room, barely large enough for a bed, dresser, and the small desk where she'd once planned meals for her imaginary restaurant. She changed into comfortable clothes, washed her face, and brushed her teeth on autopilot. But when she finally lay down, sleep wouldn't come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Dominic Caruso's face, the cold authority, the unexpected gentleness, the absolute certainty that he could protect her from anything. "I don't need protection," she thought fiercely. "I've taken care of myself since I was 18. I don't need someone swooping in like I'm helpless." But her wrist still bore the red marks from Richard's grip, and she couldn't quite shake the memory of that moment when his hand had been raised, and she'd been powerless to stop what came next. The envelope sat on her nightstand, illuminated by the streetlight filtering through her window. Maya stared at it for a long time, torn between gratitude and resentment, safety and independence. Finally, exhaustion won. She drifted into uneasy sleep, her dreams filled with dark eyes and whispered warnings, with the sensation of being watched by someone who saw too much and revealed too little. Outside her window, 3 floors down, a black sedan was parked across the street. Inside, a man in a gray suit spoke quietly into his phone. She made it home safely. No issues. On the other end of the line, Dominic Caruso stood in his penthouse office overlooking Lake Michigan, his own reflection ghosting against the floor-to-ceiling windows. "Good. Maintain distance," She doesn't need to know she's being watched. He ended the call and turned back to the windows. The city spread below him like a kingdom he'd inherited and conquered in equal measure. Somewhere out there, a 24-year-old waitress was sleeping, unaware that her life had just become infinitely more complicated. Dominic had learned long ago to trust his instincts, and his instincts told him that Maya Chen was going to be important, though in what way, he couldn't yet say. He raised his glass of whiskey to the skyline, a silent toast to fate, coincidence, or whatever force had put him in that bar at exactly the right moment. To protection, he murmured to the empty room, whether she wants it or not. The morning sun filtered through Maya's bedroom window, painting golden stripes across her second-hand comforter. She'd been awake for 20 minutes, staring at the ceiling and trying to convince herself that last Friday night had been an aberration, a strange moment that would fade into just another work story to tell at dinner parties years from now. The night a mysterious man defended you from an aggressive customer and turned out to be connected to organized crime? Sure, totally normal. Maya groaned and pulled herself out of bed. Her shift at the Copper Rose didn't start until 5, which meant she had the entire day to catch up on life's mundane necessities. Laundry, grocery shopping, calling her father to check on his health. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Meeting at 3 p.m. All staff. Mandatory. She frowned. Marcus rarely called staff meetings, and when he did, it usually meant something significant had changed. New ownership, policy updates, or, her stomach tightened, layoffs. Can't afford to lose this job, she reminded herself, the familiar mantra that had guided her decisions for the past 6 years. Sophia emerged from her bedroom around noon, looking refreshed despite having worked a night shift at the hospital, where she was completing her nursing residency. Her blonde hair was piled in a messy bun, and she wore an oversized Northwestern hoodie that she'd stolen from an ex-boyfriend 3 years ago. You look stressed, Sophia observed, pouring herself coffee from the pot Maya had made earlier. More stressed than usual, I mean. Staff meeting this afternoon could be anything, or it could be nothing. Sophia settled onto their threadbare couch, tucking her feet underneath her. You always assume the worst. Realistic thinking isn't the same as pessimism. It is when you've been catastrophizing since 6 a.m. Sophia studied her over the rim of her mug. This isn't just about the meeting, is it? You've been weird all week, ever since that thing at work last Friday. Maya had told Sophia a carefully edited version of events. Aggressive customer, intervention by another patron, situation resolved. She'd deliberately omitted Dominic's name, the fear in Richard's eyes, and the business card that was still tucked in her wallet like a secret. I'm fine, Maya said automatically. You're a terrible liar. Sophia set down her coffee. Come on. We've been roommates for 3 years. I know when something's bothering you. Maya hesitated, then sat down beside her friend. The guy who helped me last week. Jamie says he's connected. Like, seriously connected to some powerful people in the city. Connected how? His family apparently runs operations on the south side. Protection services, that kind of thing. Sophia's eyebrows rose. Organized crime? I don't know the details. But everyone at work acts strange when his name comes up, like they're afraid of even talking about him. And you're worried because he left me his phone number, Maya admitted, in case I have any more difficulties. His word, not mine. Sophia was quiet for a moment, processing. Have you called it? Of course not. Are you going to? No, Maya said it firmly, trying to convince herself as much as Sophia. I don't need that kind of complication in my life. I have enough to deal with. But he helped you. That doesn't mean I owe him anything. And it definitely doesn't mean I should get involved with someone whose business model involves intimidating people. Sophia nodded slowly. Fair enough. Just be careful, okay? Men like that don't usually offer help without expecting something in return. The words echoed in Maya's head as she took the L train to River North that afternoon. The November weather had turned sharp, the wind off Lake Michigan cutting through her jacket as she walked the familiar blocks to the Copper Rose. The staff meeting was already underway when she arrived, slightly out of breath from hurrying. Marcus stood near the bar along with the owner, Gerald Thompson, a balding man in his 60s who usually let Marcus handle day-to-day operations. Good, everyone's here, Gerald said as Maya slipped into a seat beside Jamie. I'll keep this brief. There have been some changes to our security protocols. Maya's stomach dropped. Effective immediately, we have a new security team managing the front entrance, Gerald continued. Professional outfit highly recommended. They'll be checking IDs more carefully. monitoring the crowd and ensuring that problematic individuals don't gain entry. What prompted this? Asked Tom, one of the evening servers. Gerald exchanged a glance with Marcus. Let's just say that last week's incident made it clear we need better protection for our staff. The new team comes with excellent references, and their presence should prevent future problems. Jamie leaned over to whisper in Maya's ear. Bet you anything this is connected to your knight in expensive armor. Maya's cheeks flushed. She studied Gerald's face, looking for confirmation, but his expression revealed nothing. There are also some new policies regarding difficult patrons, Marcus added. If anyone makes you uncomfortable, and I mean anyone, you come directly to me or Gerald. No trying to handle it yourself, no waiting to see if it escalates. We're creating a zero-tolerance environment. The meeting continued with mundane details about updated schedules and an upcoming health inspection, but Maya barely heard any of it. Her mind was racing, connecting dots she didn't want to connect. New security team, better protection, professional outfit. Whether she wants it or not, Dominic's voice echoed in her memory. After the meeting, Maya cornered Marcus near the supply closet. The new security, who recommended them? Marcus didn't quite meet her eyes. A business associate of Gerald's. Marcus, please. I need to know if this is because of what happened last week. The older bartender sighed heavily. Gerald received a phone call from someone who made it very clear that the Copper Rose needed to improve its security protocols. This someone offered to connect us with a reputable firm at a very reasonable rate. Dominic Caruso. The name wasn't mentioned explicitly, but the message was clear. We take better care of our staff, or we might find ourselves facing difficulties with permits, inspections, that sort of thing. Maya felt heat rising in her chest. Anger, frustration, and something else she couldn't quite name. He can't just do that. Gerald owns this bar, not him. In this city, the Caruso family has connections everywhere. If they want something to happen, it happens. Marcus placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Look, I know you value your independence, but is having better security really such a terrible thing? We should have implemented these changes years ago. That's not the point. The point is that I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for him to swoop in and rearrange things to suit his idea of what I need. Maybe not, but you're safer now. We all are. Marcus headed back toward the bar. Sometimes we need to accept help, even when it comes from unexpected sources. The evening shift began and Maya tried to focus on work. The new security team was immediately noticeable. 2 men in dark suits stationed at the entrance, professionally checking IDs and managing the crowd flow with quiet efficiency. They were polite but unmistakably serious, the kind of people who could probably handle any situation without raising their voices. The atmosphere in the bar felt different. Safer, yes, but also more controlled. Customers seemed to sense the shift, maintaining better behavior, drinking more moderately. The usual Friday night chaos was muted. Around 8 p.m., Maya was taking an order from a young couple when she felt it. That prickling sensation at the back of her neck that meant someone was watching her. She glanced toward the entrance and froze. Dominic Caruso had just walked in. He wore a different suit tonight. Navy blue, perfectly tailored, with a crisp white shirt and no tie. He moved through the bar with that same fluid confidence, and just like before, people noticed him. Conversations faltered. Eyes tracked his movement. The security team at the door nodded respectfully as he passed. He chose a booth in Maya's section. Of course he did. Maya finished with the couple, delivered their order to Marcus, and took a steadying breath. She could do this. She was a professional. The fact that her heart was racing had nothing to do with how he looked in that suit, or the way his dark eyes had found her immediately upon entering. Professional, she reminded herself. He's just another customer. She approached the booth with her notepad ready and her expression carefully neutral. Good evening. Can I start you with something to drink? Dominic's mouth curved slightly. Not quite a smile, but close. Good evening, Maya. Whiskey? Neat. Whatever Marcus recommends. I'll get that for you. She started to turn away. I owe you an apology. Maya paused, caught off guard. Excuse me? The security changes, I overstepped. His voice was quiet, meant only for her. I didn't consider how you might feel about decisions being made on your behalf. You're right, Maya said, her professional mask slipping. You didn't consider it. You just assumed you knew what was best and made it happen. Yes. No excuses, no deflection. Just acknowledgement. The simple honesty disarmed her more than any elaborate explanation would have. Maya found herself sitting down across from him without consciously deciding to do so, definitely against restaurant protocol, but the booth was partially hidden from view. and she needed answers. "Why?" she asked. "Why do you care what happens to a waitress you met once?" Dominic studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "Have you ever looked at someone and known with absolute certainty that your life was about to change? That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have." He leaned back against the leather booth. "I came in for a drink last Friday. I'd had a long day, wanted somewhere quiet to think. Then I saw a situation developing and I intervened. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. No." His eyes held hers. "Because when I looked at you, really looked at you, I saw someone who deserves better than being grabbed by entitled men who think service workers exist for their amusement. I saw someone strong enough to stand her ground even when she was frightened. And I thought, the city needs more people like that. People who maintain their integrity even when it would be easier to compromise." Maya's throat felt tight. "That still doesn't explain why you're here, or why you pressured my boss into hiring your security team." "You're right, it doesn't explain it logically." Dominic's voice dropped lower. "The truth is, I wanted to make sure you were safe. I wanted to know that if something happened, there would be people positioned to help. Is that overstepping? Absolutely. Is it controlling? Probably. But I'm not going to apologize for ensuring your safety. I've been taking care of myself for a long time," Maya said quietly. "I don't need a protector. Everyone needs someone watching their back occasionally, even the strongest people. And you've appointed yourself to that role? Without asking? Would you have said yes if I'd asked?" "No." "Exactly." The corner of his mouth lifted again. "So I didn't ask. I just made sure you were protected." Maya should have been furious. She should have stood up, walked away, maybe thrown his whiskey in his face for good measure. Instead, she found herself fighting a smile. "You're impossible," she said. "I've been called worse." "I'm sure you have." Maya stood, remembering herself. "I'll get your drink." "Maya." Her name in his voice stopped her. "For what it's worth, I respect your independence. I don't want to control your life or make your decisions. I just want to know you're safe." She wanted to argue, to maintain her righteous anger, but the sincerity in his eyes made it difficult. "The security team stays," she said finally. "But no more surprise interventions. If you want to help, you ask first." "Agreed." Maya returned to the bar, her emotions churning. Marcus was already pouring the whiskey. Top shelf, single malt, the expensive stuff they kept for special customers. "He's in your section again," Marcus observed mildly. "I noticed. He asked you out yet?" Maya nearly dropped the glass. "What? No, it's not like that." "Right." Marcus didn't sound convinced. "The man reorganizes our entire security system, shows up in your section 2 weeks in a row, looks at you like you're the only person in the room, but it's definitely not like that." "Marcus, I'm just saying, be careful. Men like Dominic Caruso don't do anything halfway. If he's decided you're important to him, that's not going to change just because you want your independence." Maya delivered the whiskey without responding to Marcus's observation. Dominic accepted it with a quiet thank you, and she noticed he'd placed a book on the table, a worn paperback of Gabriel Garcia Marquez's Love in the Time of Cholera. "You read Marquez?" The question escaped before she could stop it. "You sound surprised." I didn't expect." She trailed off, realizing how her assumptions must sound. "You didn't expect someone in my line of work to read literary fiction?" Dominic's tone was amused rather than offended. "My mother was a literature professor before she married my father. She insisted all her children appreciate good writing. She passed away 8 years ago. Cancer." He said it matter-of-factly, but Maya caught the brief flash of pain in his eyes. "I'm sorry. She would have liked you," Dominic said unexpectedly. She always respected people who stood up for themselves, who didn't let the world diminish them. Maya didn't know how to respond to that, so she fell back on professionalism. "Can I get you anything else, food?" "Actually, yes. What do you recommend?" They spent the next few minutes discussing the menu, and Maya found herself relaxing despite her better judgment. Dominic asked thoughtful questions, listened carefully to her suggestions, and ordered the pasta dish she'd praised. As she walked away to place his order, Jamie intercepted her near the kitchen. "Okay, what is happening?" Jamie's eyes were huge. "You were sitting with him. Sitting with Dominic Caruso. He wanted to apologize for the security thing. And you just sat down? With him?" It seemed rude not to. Jamie grabbed her arm, pulling her into the corner by the dishwashing station. "Maya, people don't just sit and chat with him like he's a normal customer. He's not normal. I know who he is," Maya interrupted. But in that moment, he was just a person apologizing for overstepping boundaries. Was I supposed to be rude? No, but Jamie struggled to articulate her concern. Just be careful, okay? I've worked in Chicago restaurants for 8 years. I've seen what happens when civilians get mixed up with people like the Carusos. It never ends well. Nothing is happening, Maya insisted. He's just a customer. But even as she said it, she knew it was a lie. Dominic Caruso wasn't just a customer, and whatever was developing between them wasn't just a typical server-patron relationship. The rest of the evening passed smoothly. Dominic ate his meal, read his book, and nursed his whiskey. He didn't demand attention or make a show of his presence. He was simply there. And somehow, knowing he was there made Maya feel safer than the security team at the door. Around 11, as the crowd began to thin, Dominic signaled for his check. Maya brought it over and he handed her his credit card without looking at the total. Thank you for dinner, he said, and for the conversation. It's my job. No, your job is to take orders and deliver food. The conversation was a gift. He stood, and she was reminded again of how tall he was, how he seemed to command space simply by occupying it. Will you let me walk you to your train when your shift ends? That's not necessary. I didn't ask if it was necessary. I asked if you would allow it. Maya hesitated. Every sensible part of her brain screamed that this was a bad idea, that getting closer to Dominic Caruso would only complicate her life in ways she couldn't predict. But another part of her, the part that was tired of always being practical, always being careful, wanted to say yes. My shift ends at 2, she heard herself say. I'll be here. He was as good as his word. When Maya finished her closing duties and stepped out into the November cold, Dominic was waiting near the entrance, hands in his pockets, looking unbothered by the wind that made her pull her jacket tighter. You really didn't have to wait, she said. I know. He fell into step beside her as she started toward the L station. But I wanted to. They walked in silence for a block, the city quiet around them. Most of the bars and restaurants were closing, their patrons dispersing into the night. A few taxis cruised past, their rooftop lights glowing yellow. Can I ask you something? Maya said finally. Anything. That night Richard tried to. When he raised his hand, you were there immediately. How did you know something was about to happen? Dominic was quiet for several steps. I was watching you. Why? Because from the moment I walked in, I couldn't stop watching you. He said it simply, as if it were an obvious fact. The way you moved through the room, the way you handled every difficult situation with grace and professionalism. You were the most competent person in that entire bar, and nobody seemed to notice. I'm just doing my job. You're doing much more than that. You're maintaining order in a chaotic environment, making people feel welcome and safe, diffusing tension before it escalates. Those are valuable skills. Maya had never thought about her work that way. To her, it was just survival. Showing up, doing what needed to be done, collecting her paycheck. But hearing Dominic describe it, she realized he was right. There was an art to good service, a kind of invisible orchestration that kept everything running smoothly. What about you? She asked. What do you do? Besides showing up at bars and reorganizing their security, I manage various business interests. Real estate primarily, some restaurants, import-export operations. It's mostly administrative work, meetings, paperwork, making sure everything runs efficiently. It was a carefully neutral description that probably omitted more than it revealed. But Maya appreciated that he didn't try to dress up his activities with euphemisms or pretend to be something he wasn't. Do you enjoy it? She asked. The question seemed to surprise him. Enjoy it? I've never really thought about it that way. It's what I was raised to do, the responsibility I inherited. Enjoyment doesn't really factor into it. That sounds lonely. It can be. He glanced at her, something vulnerable flickering in his expression. Most people interact with me out of fear or obligation. Having a genuine conversation is rare. They'd reached the L station. Maya paused at the bottom of the stairs, suddenly reluctant for the evening to end. She told herself it was just because the conversation was interesting, not because she was drawn to this man who shouldn't interest her at all. Thank you for walking me, she said. Thank you for allowing it. Dominic reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, different from the one he'd left the previous week. This is my personal number, not for emergencies, just if you ever want to talk, or if you need anything. No strings, no obligations. Maya took the card, their fingers brushing briefly. Even through her gloves, she felt the contact like an electric current. I should go, she said, though she didn't move. You should. he agreed, also not moving. For a moment they just stood there, the city humming around them. Maya was acutely aware of how close he was, how easy it would be to close the distance between them. His eyes held hers, dark and unreadable, and she wondered what he was thinking. Then a train rumbled overhead, breaking the spell. Maya stepped back, creating safe distance. "Good night, Dominic." "Good night, Maya." She climbed the stairs without looking back, though she felt his gaze following her until she disappeared from view. On the train home, she studied the business card. Simple, elegant design. Just his name and phone number. No company or title. She should throw it away. She should delete the number and forget this strange connection developing between them. She should focus on her own life, her own goals, and not get distracted by a man who represented everything complicated and dangerous. Instead, she carefully tucked the card into her wallet, right beside the first one he'd given her. The pattern repeated over the next 2 weeks. Dominic came to the Copper Rose 3 or 4 times a week, always sitting in Maya's section, always ordering dinner and staying for a few hours. He read his books, occasionally worked on a laptop, and engaged Maya in conversation whenever she had a spare moment. He never pushed for more than she was willing to give. He didn't ask personal questions or try to insert himself further into her life. He was just present, a steady, calm presence in the chaos of her work life. And despite all her reservations, Maya found herself looking forward to his visits. The other changes were subtler, but no less noticeable. The aggressive businessman who used to harass servers disappeared entirely. Jamie heard he'd left Chicago suddenly for a job opportunity in Seattle. The group of college students who regularly tried to skip out on their tabs stopped coming. The weekend crowd became better behaved, more respectful. The Caruso effect, Marcus called it. Word spreads fast. Nobody wants to cause trouble in a place he's protecting. Maya wasn't sure how she felt about being protected, but she couldn't deny that work had become significantly less stressful. It was on a Tuesday night, during an unusually quiet shift, that everything changed again. Maya was wiping down tables when the door opened, and a figure from her past walked in. Jake Morrison, her ex-boyfriend. She hadn't seen Jake in almost a year, not since their relationship had imploded in a spectacular argument about his inability to hold a job and her obsession with working too much. He looked worse than she remembered, thinner, with dark circles under his eyes and a nervous energy that set her teeth on edge. "Maya," he said her name like a prayer. "Thank God. I've been trying to find you." "Jake." She kept her voice neutral, professional. "What are you doing here?" "I needed to see you. We need to talk." He moved closer and she caught the smell of alcohol on his breath. "I made a mistake, babe. Letting you go was the biggest mistake of my life." "Jake, we broke up a year ago. You need to leave. Just give me 5 minutes, please." His hand reached for her arm, and she stepped back instinctively. From across the room she saw Marcus stiffen. The security team at the door was already moving, but someone else moved faster. Dominic appeared beside Jake, having crossed the bar with impossible speed. He didn't touch him, didn't raise his voice. He simply stood there, and his presence was enough to make Jake stumble backward. "The lady asked you to leave," Dominic said quietly. Jake's eyes widened as he registered who was speaking. I'm just trying to talk to my girlfriend." "Ex-girlfriend," Maya corrected sharply. "We're not together, Jake. We haven't been for a year." "Come on, Maya, don't be like that." "She's being clear and direct," Dominic interrupted. "You're the one not listening. That ends now." Jake looked between them, his face flushing with anger and embarrassment. "Who the hell are you to tell me what to do?" "Someone who respects her boundaries." Dominic's voice remained level, but something in his tone made Jake go pale. "You're going to leave now. You're not going to come back. You're not going to contact her. Are we clear?" For a moment, Maya thought Jake might argue, but something in Dominic's eyes must have convinced him otherwise. He backed toward the door, hands raised in surrender. "This isn't over," he muttered, though it sounded more like bravado than threat. "Yes," Dominic said with absolute finality. "It is." Jake left, and the bar slowly returned to normal, but Maya felt shaken, the encounter bringing up memories she'd rather forget. Jake's jealousy, his inability to accept rejection, the uncomfortable months after their breakup when he'd called constantly, showed up at her workplace, refused to believe they were truly done. "I'm sorry," Dominic said, drawing her attention back. "I shouldn't have intervened. You were handling it." "No, Maya took a breath, steadying herself. "Thank you. Jake doesn't take hints well, or direct statements, apparently. Has he bothered you before?" "Not in months. I thought he'd finally moved on." Dominic's expression darkened. If he contacts you again, I'll handle it, Maya said firmly, then softened. But thank you for being here. They stood there for a moment, the bar bustling around them. Maya realized how much things had shifted in 2 weeks. Dominic had become part of her routine, a fixture she'd started to depend on without fully acknowledging it. Can I ask you something? She said suddenly. Always. Why me? Really? You could have anyone in this city. Why does a waitress in River North matter to you? Dominic was quiet for so long she thought he might not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Because when I look at you, I don't see someone who wants something from me. I don't see fear or calculation or manipulation. I just see someone real, someone honest, someone who treats me like a person instead of a title or a threat. His eyes met hers. Do you have any idea how rare that is in my world? Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. This was dangerous territory, the kind of emotional honesty that led to attachment, to complications, to getting hurt. She should walk away right now, maintain her distance, protect herself. Instead, she heard herself say, I get off at midnight. Would you want to get coffee or something? Dominic's face transformed, a genuine smile breaking through his usually controlled expression. I'd like that very much. Just coffee, she emphasized. This isn't just coffee, he agreed. No expectations. But as Maya returned to work, finishing her shift with unusual distraction, she knew they were both lying. This wasn't just coffee. This was the moment everything changed, the point of no return. And for the first time in her carefully controlled life, Maya decided to stop playing it safe and see where the danger led. The coffee shop was tucked into a quiet corner of the loop, the kind of place that stayed open 24 hours to serve night shift workers, insomniacs, and people seeking refuge from the loneliness of 2 a.m. Warm light spilled through the windows onto empty sidewalks, and the air inside smelled of espresso and cinnamon. Maya slid into a worn leather booth while Dominic ordered at the counter. Black coffee for him, chai latte for her. She watched him interact with the barista, noting how his posture subtly changed. Here, away from the copper rose and the weight of recognition, he seemed almost ordinary, just a man in an expensive suit buying coffee in the middle of the night. Thank you for agreeing to this, he said, setting her drink down before settling across from her. I'm still not entirely sure why I did. Maya wrapped her hands around the warm cup. This goes against every piece of practical advice I've ever received. Which is, don't get involved with customers. Don't mix personal and professional. Don't date men who carry themselves like they could dismantle your entire life with a phone call. She met his eyes. How am I doing so far? Remarkably accurate. His mouth quirked. Though I prefer to think I'd ask permission before dismantling anything. Despite herself, Maya laughed. It felt good, natural, easy. When was the last time she'd sat in a coffee shop at midnight just talking to someone? Her life had become so focused on survival, on checking boxes and meeting obligations, that she'd forgotten what spontaneity felt like. Tell me about your family, Dominic said, steering the conversation toward safer ground. You mentioned your father needs medication. Is he ill? Maya hesitated. She'd learned long ago to keep personal details private, especially from people who might use that information as leverage. But something about the genuine interest in Dominic's expression made her want to share. Diabetes, she said finally. Type 2, pretty advanced. He worked construction for 30 years, never took care of himself. Now he's dealing with complications, nerve damage, vision problems. The medication is expensive, even with insurance. And you help him financially. I'm his only child. My mother passed when I was 16, car accident. Maya took a sip of her latte, the sweetness coating her tongue. After that, it was just the two of us. He worked himself nearly to exhaustion to pay for my education. Now it's my turn. That's why you left culinary school. She was surprised he'd remembered that detail from their brief conversations at the bar. How did you? You mentioned once that you wanted to open a cafe someday. And I noticed the way you talk about food. There's knowledge there, training. It wasn't hard to connect the dots. Dominic's expression softened. You gave up your dream to take care of him. It wasn't really a choice. Dreams don't pay for insulin. Maya forced a smile. Besides, culinary school was probably impractical anyway. The restaurant industry is brutal. Better to be realistic. Or maybe you're just scared. The observation landed with unexpected force. Maya felt her defenses rising. Excuse me. You're one of the most competent, capable people I've ever met. Dominic said calmly. But you've built your entire life around playing it safe, minimizing risk, staying in control. The idea of pursuing something you actually want terrifies you, because it means being vulnerable to failure. You don't know me well enough to make that assessment, don't I? He leaned forward slightly. In the 2 weeks I've been coming to the bar, I've watched you handle every crisis with perfect composure. Difficult customers, kitchen mistakes, coworker drama, nothing rattles you. But when I offered you help, offered to make your life easier, you reacted like I'd threatened you. Maya opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. He wasn't entirely wrong. She had spent the past 6 years building walls, creating a life where she relied on no one and nothing could surprise her. The thought of accepting help, of letting someone else have influence over her circumstances, felt dangerously close to losing control. What about you? She challenged, deflecting. You've spent the last 20 minutes analyzing my psychology. Let's talk about yours. That's fair. Dominic sat back, considering. What do you want to know? Everything. Start with how someone ends up running a family business that operates outside traditional legal boundaries. He was quiet for a long moment, and Maya wondered if she'd pushed too far. But then he began speaking, his voice taking on a reflective quality she hadn't heard before. My grandfather came to Chicago from Sicily in 1952. He was 17, spoke almost no English, and had nothing but the clothes he was wearing. He found work in construction, saved every penny, and eventually bought a small restaurant in Little Italy. Maya listened, fascinated despite herself. Back then, the city was different. More dangerous in some ways, more straightforward in others. If you wanted to run a business, you needed protection from people who would take advantage of immigrant owners. My grandfather made arrangements with local families who could provide that protection. Eventually, those arrangements became partnerships. By the time my father inherited the business, we weren't just restaurateurs. We were part of the structure that kept certain neighborhoods safe. Safe, Maya echoed. That's an interesting word choice. It's the accurate word. My father had strict rules. No preying on innocent people. No tolerating chaos that affects families and children. No operations that destroy communities. We provide security, resolve disputes, maintain order in areas where traditional law enforcement is either absent or ineffective. And the less legal aspects? We facilitate business arrangements that exist in gray areas. Import-export, construction contracts, entertainment venues. Some of it operates within legal boundaries, some of it bends those boundaries. Dominic's gaze was steady, unflinching. I won't pretend to be something I'm not, Maya. My world isn't clean or simple, but I also don't apologize for keeping people safe, even when they don't ask for your protection, especially then. He paused. My mother was taken from us because we weren't careful enough. Someone thought they could gain leverage by targeting her. By the time we understood what was happening, the illness had progressed too far. I learned that waiting for people to ask for help means sometimes they die before they get it. The raw pain in his voice made Maya's chest tighten. I'm sorry. That must have been terrible. It was educational. Dominic's expression hardened slightly, the vulnerability shuddering behind familiar control. I took over the family operations when I was 25. My father had a heart problem, needed to step back. I've spent the last decade building a reputation, fair but firm, protective but not predatory. People in my neighborhoods know that if something threatens them, they can reach out. That matters to me. Why? Maya asked softly. Because my mother believed that power came with responsibility. She used to say that if you have the ability to make someone's life better and you choose not to, you're complicit in their suffering. He met her eyes. I think about that every day. Maya absorbed this, trying to reconcile the man sitting across from her with the reputation that preceded him. Dominic Caruso was supposed to be dangerous, cold, someone to fear, but the person she was talking to seemed driven by a complicated sense of obligation and loss. You miss her, she observed. Every day. She was the moral center of our family. Without her, he trailed off, then seemed to shake himself. But we were talking about you and your cafe dream. Were we? I thought we were discussing your mother's philosophy and your complicated relationship with power. Can't we discuss both? Dominic smiled, a real smile that transformed his entire face. I'm capable of multitasking. They talked for another hour, conversation flowing easily between heavy topics and lighter ones. Maya learned that Dominic spoke 3 languages, had a degree in economics from Northwestern, and harbored a secret appreciation for terrible action movies. He learned that she'd wanted to be a chef since watching her mother make traditional Chinese dumplings. that she still sketched cafe designs in notebooks she kept hidden, and that she was terrified of failing at anything she truly cared about. "That's why you work at the bar instead of pursuing culinary opportunities," Dominic said, the pieces clicking together. "If you never really try, you can't really fail." "Thank you, Dr. Freud. I'm not judging. I understand the impulse. I run my father's business exactly the way he did because changing anything risks destroying the stability we've built. So we're both stuck," Maya said. "Or we're both cautious." He reached across the table, his hand hovering near hers but not quite touching. "But maybe that's not the worst thing. Maybe careful people who understand risk are exactly the ones who should take chances, because we'll do it thoughtfully." Maya looked at his hand, then at his face. The coffee shop was nearly empty now, just them and a tired-looking student in the corner. Outside, Chicago slept in that deep night way where the city almost seemed peaceful. She should go home. She should thank him for the coffee and maintain appropriate boundaries. She should remember all the very good reasons why getting closer to Dominic Caruso was a terrible idea. Instead, she placed her hand in his. His fingers closed around hers. Warm, solid, real. Neither of them spoke, the moment stretching into something significant, a line being crossed that couldn't be uncrossed. "Maya," he said quietly, "I need you to understand something. If we do this, if we pursue whatever this is becoming, your life will get more complicated. People will notice. They'll make assumptions. Some of them will be hostile. Is that supposed to discourage me? It's supposed to be honest." His thumb traced small circles on her palm. "I can protect you from external threats, but I can't protect you from the complications that come with being associated with me. That's a burden I can't prevent, only share." "What if I don't want protection?" Maya challenged. "What if I just want this, whatever this is? Then I'll give you whatever version of this you're comfortable with." Dominic's intensity made her breath catch. "But you need to know, I don't do anything halfway. If you let me into your life, I'm going to care about what happens to you. I'm going to want to make things easier for you. That's not controlling. It's just who I am. And if I need space, then you take it. No questions, no pressure." He squeezed her hand gently. "I'm asking you to trust me, not surrender to me. There's a difference." Maya sat with that for a moment, weighing her options. The practical choice was obvious. Thank him for the conversation, maintain friendly distance, continue her carefully controlled life. But the practical choice suddenly felt suffocating, like she'd been holding her breath for 6 years, and someone was finally offering her air. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Good. That means you're taking this seriously." Dominic's expression softened. "I'm scared too, if it helps. You're the first person in a decade who's made me want something beyond maintaining the status quo. That's a lot of pressure. Then let's remove the pressure. Let's just see what happens. No expectations, no obligations. Just two people who enjoy each other's company. Just two people," Maya repeated, unable to suppress a smile. "One of whom happens to run half of Chicago's underground economy." Details. They stayed until the coffee shop closed at 4 a.m., finally stepping out into the pre-dawn cold. The city was caught in that liminal space between night and morning, streetlights still glowing while the eastern sky began to lighten. "I should get you home," Dominic said. "I can take the train." "Maya," he gave her a look. "It's 4 in the morning. Please let me drive you." She wanted to argue on principle, but exhaustion and practicality won out. "Okay, thank you." His car was parked nearby, a sleek black Mercedes that probably cost more than Maya made in 2 years. The interior was immaculate, leather seats and subtle ambient lighting. Classical music played softly from the speakers. "Beethoven?" Maya asked as he pulled into traffic. "Piano Concerto No. 5, my mother's favorite." He glanced at her. "Is that acceptable, or would you prefer something else?" "It's perfect." The drive to Pilsen took 20 minutes through empty streets. Maya directed him to her building, suddenly self-conscious about the peeling paint and the broken security door that never quite latched properly. Dominic pulled to the curb but didn't comment on the neighborhood's shabbiness. Instead, he said, "What are you doing Sunday?" "Working lunch shift, then I have the evening free." "Why?" "There's a gallery opening in West Loop. Contemporary art should be interesting. Would you like to go?" Maya's first instinct was to say no, to maintain distance, to protect herself. But then she remembered what he'd said about being scared to try things that mattered. "I'd like that," she said. His smile was worth the risk. "I'll pick you up at 7. 7 works." They sat there for a moment, the car idling, neither quite ready to end the evening. Finally, Maya reached for the door handle. Maya, Dominic's voice stopped her. Thank you for giving me a chance. Thank you for being patient while I figure out what I'm doing. She climbed out of the car and was halfway to her building when she heard his window roll down. Maya? She turned back. For what it's worth, he called. I think you'd make an extraordinary chef, and I'd be first in line when you open that cafe. The compliment settled warm in her chest, a glow that lasted all the way up 3 flights of stairs and into her dark apartment. Sophia was asleep, her soft snoring audible through the thin walls. Maya got ready for bed mechanically, her mind replaying the entire evening. She was falling for Dominic Caruso. There was no point denying it. The question was whether she was brave enough to see where that fall led. The gallery opening was everything Maya hadn't expected. Instead of the pretentious affair she'd imagined, it was intimate and welcoming. About 50 people circulating through a converted warehouse space, admiring bold contemporary pieces while sipping wine and discussing artistic vision. Dominic had been the perfect companion, offering thoughtful observations about the artwork while making her laugh with whispered comments about the more eccentric attendees. He'd introduced her to several people, always with simple courtesy. This is Maya Chen, never making her feel like an accessory or explaining their connection. They were studying a particularly striking abstract piece, all sharp angles and vibrant reds. When Maya felt it, that sensation of being watched but not in the friendly way, she turned slightly, scanning the crowd, and locked eyes with a blonde woman standing near the entrance. The woman was probably mid-30s, beautiful in a cold, calculated way, wearing a dress that cost more than Maya's monthly rent, and she was staring at Dominic with an expression that mixed familiarity with displeasure. Friend of yours? Maya asked quietly. Dominic followed her gaze and something tightened in his expression. Former acquaintance. Excuse me for one moment. He crossed the gallery with purposeful strides, engaging the woman in what appeared to be a brief, tense conversation. Maya watched from a distance, noting the woman's animated gestures and Dominic's controlled responses. After less than a minute, the woman turned and left, her departure sharp with anger. Dominic returned, his jaw tight. I apologize. That was unexpected and unwelcome. Who was she? Katerina Volkov. Her family runs operations on the south side. Different territory, different methods. He guided Maya toward a quieter corner. We have a professional understanding to stay out of each other's business. Her presence here was a message. What kind of message? That she's noticed you, that she's keeping track of who I spend time with. Dominic's voice was carefully controlled, but Maya caught the underlying tension. It's nothing to worry about immediately, but I want you to be aware. Aware of what exactly? That my world has complexities. Rivalries, territorial boundaries, people who use personal relationships as leverage. He looked directly at her. I told you things would get complicated. Maya's stomach knotted. This was what Jamie had warned her about. Getting caught in situations she didn't fully understand. Becoming a piece in games played by people who operated by different rules. Should I be concerned? She asked. Not while I'm breathing, but I want you to be cautious. Pay attention to your surroundings. Let me know if anything seems off. He touched her arm gently. I have people watching your building, your route to work, discreetly. You won't see them, but they're there. The revelation should have angered her. A week ago it would have, but after their midnight conversation, after beginning to understand the world Dominic navigated, Maya recognized it for what it was. Not control, but genuine concern. Okay, she said simply. His surprise was evident. Okay, that's it? No argument about independence? Would arguing change anything? Would it make me safer? No. Then I'll save my energy for battles I can actually win. Maya managed a small smile. Besides, after everything you've told me, I'd be naive to think your attention doesn't come with complications. I'm choosing this with my eyes open. Something shifted in Dominic's expression. Respect, perhaps, mixed with something deeper. You're extraordinary. Do you know that? I'm practical. You're both. He moved closer, his hand settling at the small of her back. Can I take you to dinner? Somewhere quiet where we don't have to worry about watchful eyes or complicated messages? Yes. They left the gallery, and Dominic drove them to a small Italian restaurant in a neighborhood Maya didn't recognize. The owner greeted Dominic by name, led them to a private table in the back, and promised to bring something special. Over pasta and wine, they continued the conversation that had started in the coffee shop. Dreams abandoned and dreams still hidden, fears that shaped decisions, the weight of responsibility that came from being needed by other people. My father called yesterday, Maya said, twirling linguine around her fork. He asked if I was seeing anyone. I didn't know what to tell him. What do you want to tell him? The truth, I suppose. That I'm spending time with someone who makes me think about possibilities I'd written off as impractical. And what did you actually tell him? Maya smiled. That I was figuring things out, and I'd let him know when there was something worth reporting. Diplomatic. Practical, she corrected. My father worries. He already feels guilty about the medical expenses, about me leaving school. If I tell him I'm involved with someone whose business is complicated, he'll worry more. Involved, Dominic repeated, testing the word. Is that what we are? Aren't we? Maya met his eyes. We've spent nearly every day together for 3 weeks. We talk about things I don't discuss with people I've known for years. You've reorganized your schedule to match my shifts at the bar. What else would you call it? I'd call it the beginning of something important. He reached across the table, taking her hand. But I want to hear you say it. I want to know this isn't one-sided. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. This was it. The moment of commitment, of acknowledging that whatever they were building had weight and meaning and potential for both joy and pain. It's not one-sided, she said quietly. I think about you constantly. I look forward to your visits to the bar. I replay our conversations when I'm trying to fall asleep. And it terrifies me, because I don't know how to do this. How to be with someone whose life is so different from mine. We figure it out together. Dominic's thumb traced circles on her palm, the gesture now familiar and comforting. One day at a time, one challenge at a time. No expectations beyond honesty and respect. And protection? Maya added with a slight smile, since you seem incapable of restraining that impulse. And protection, he agreed. But the kind you consent to, not the kind I impose. They finished dinner as the restaurant filled with late-night diners. Dominic handled the bill discreetly. Maya suspected he probably owned the restaurant or had some arrangement with the owner, but she didn't ask. Some things were better left in the comfortable space of plausible deniability. It was nearly midnight when they finally left. The November air had turned bitter, frost glittering on parked cars. Dominic wrapped his coat around Maya's shoulders despite her protests, leaving himself in just a suit jacket. You'll freeze, she objected. I'll survive. He led her to his car, opening the passenger door with old-fashioned courtesy. Besides, you look better in it than I do. The drive back to Pilsen was quiet, comfortable silence punctuated by occasional observations about the city passing outside the windows. When Dominic pulled up to her building, neither moved to end the evening. I don't want tonight to be over, Maya admitted. Neither do I. They sat in the warm car, the engine idling, tension building between them like a physical presence. Maya was acutely aware of how close he was, how easy it would be to close the distance separating them. Maya, his voice was rough. If I kiss you right now, everything changes, you understand that? I understand. Once we cross that line, there's no going back to being just friends, just two people casually spending time together. It becomes real. It already is real, she whispered. That was all the permission he needed. Dominic's hand cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone, giving her one last chance to pull away. Instead, Maya leaned in, closing the distance between them. The kiss was gentle at first, a question, an exploration, a promise. Then it deepened, becoming something more urgent, more honest. Maya's hands found his hair, pulling him closer, and she felt his sharp intake of breath against her mouth. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Dominic rested his forehead against hers. Real, he agreed. Maya laughed shakily. That was inadequate. I should take you upstairs and kiss you properly in private, where I can take my time. The suggestion sent heat through her entire body. That's probably a terrible idea. Probably. His smile was devastating. But I'm going to do it anyway if you let me. Maya knew she should be sensible. She should say goodnight, go upstairs alone, maintain some semblance of boundaries. But practical Maya had been making responsible choices for 6 years. And where had it gotten her? Working a dead-end job, living in a rundown apartment, watching her dreams collect dust. 3rd floor, she said. But my roommate is home, so we have to be quiet. Dominic's expression transformed with pure joy. I can be very quiet. They made it to her apartment in record time, Maya fumbling with her keys while Dominic stood close behind her, his presence warming her despite the cold hallway. The lock finally turned, and she led him inside, acutely aware of how shabby her apartment must seem compared to what he was used to. But Dominic didn't seem to notice the worn furniture or the kitchen tiles that needed replacing. His attention was entirely focused on her as she led him to her bedroom, closing the door softly behind them. "Hi," she whispered, suddenly nervous. "Hi," he smiled, hands finding her waist, pulling her close. "Still sure about this?" Completely terrified and completely sure. Good combination. His lips found hers again, and this time there was no hesitation, no holding back. They kissed like they'd been waiting their entire lives for this moment. Deep, searching, honest kisses that spoke of longing and need, and the terrifying vulnerability of letting someone matter. Dominic's hands mapped her body with reverent attention, and Maya discovered that beneath the expensive suits and controlled exterior, he was just a man who'd been lonely for too long. "Tell me if you want to stop," he murmured against her neck. "Tell me if it's too much." "Don't stop," Maya breathed. "Please don't stop." They fell into her bed together, a tangle of limbs and whispered confessions. And for the first time in 6 years, Maya let herself want something impractical, something risky, something that made her feel alive, rather than simply surviving. Maya woke to sunlight streaming through her curtains and the unfamiliar warmth of someone beside her. For a moment she forgot where she was, who she was with. Then memory rushed back. The gallery, the kiss, the long night of discovery and connection. Dominic was already awake, propped on one elbow, watching her with an expression so tender it made her chest ache. "Good morning," he said softly. "Good morning." Maya's voice was rough with sleep. "How long have you been awake?" "A while. I didn't want to miss seeing you wake up. That's either very sweet or slightly creepy. Can it be both?" He leaned down, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "I should probably leave before your roommate wakes up and finds a strange man in the apartment." Probably wise. But neither of them moved. "Dominic?" "Yes?" "Last night was—" She struggled to find words adequate to describe the shift in their relationship, the intimacy they'd shared. "Perfect," he supplied. "Unexpected and perfect. I was going to say significant, but perfect works too." They lay there for another few minutes, reluctant to let the bubble of intimacy burst. Finally, practical considerations won out. Dominic dressed quietly while Maya watched from bed, appreciating the elegant economy of his movements. "Dinner tonight?" he asked, shrugging into his jacket. "I work until 10. Then coffee after your shift. Same place as before?" "I'd like that." He crossed back to the bed, cupping her face in his hands and kissing her with enough intensity to make her toes curl. "Tonight," he promised. "And Maya? Thank you for trusting me." Then he was gone, slipping out of her room silently. She heard the apartment door open and close, then Sophia's voice from the hallway. "Was that who I think it was?" Maya pulled on a robe and emerged to find her roommate standing in the kitchen, coffee mug in hand, eyes wide with curiosity and concern. "Define who you think it was," Maya said, trying for casual and failing completely. "Maya Chen, did Dominic Caruso just leave our apartment? At 7 in the morning, wearing last night's clothes?" There was no point denying it. "Yes." "Oh my God." Sophia set down her mug before she dropped it. Okay. Tell me everything." "No, wait. Tell me you're being safe. Not physically safe, I mean emotionally safe. Do you know what you're doing?" "No," Maya admitted, pouring her own coffee. "I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway." "That's either very brave or very reckless." "Again, can it be both?" Sophia studied her for a long moment, then her expression softened. "You look happy. Really happy. I haven't seen you look like this in years." "I am happy. Also terrified, confused, and completely out of my depth, but happy." "Then I'm happy for you." Sophia pulled her into a hug. "Just promise me you'll be careful. Men like Dominic Caruso don't exist in simple, straightforward relationships." "I know. He's been very honest about that." "Good, honesty is important." Sophia released her, returning to her coffee. "So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how was—" "Sophia." "What?" "I'm invested now. You can't drop this bomb and not give me details." Maya laughed, feeling lighter than she had in months. "It was a 12. Happy?" "Extremely. Now go get ready for work. And text me if anything weird happens. I mean weirder than everything that's already happened." Maya's shift started normally enough. The usual Friday night crowd, the familiar rhythm of taking orders and delivering food, Marcus behind the bar with his steady presence. But around 8 p.m., the atmosphere shifted. Jake walked in. He looked worse than the last time. More desperate, more agitated. His eyes searched the bar until they found Maya, and his expression hardened with determination. "Not again," Jamie muttered, appearing beside Maya. "Want me to get security?" "No, I'll handle it." Maya straightened her shoulders and approached the table where Jake had seated himself. "Jake, I thought we made it clear last week that you're not welcome here. I need to talk to you." His voice was too loud, drawing attention from nearby tables. "Just 5 minutes, Maya, please. There's nothing to discuss. We broke up a year ago. It's time to move on." "I can't move on." Jake stood abruptly, and several customers turned to watch. "Not when you're throwing away what we had for some criminal. Do you have any idea what people are saying about you?" Maya felt her face flush with embarrassment and anger. "Lower your voice." "Why? Are you ashamed? You should be." Jake's agitation was escalating. "I loved you. I wanted to build a life with you, and you chose him. Some guy who probably has people disappear when they inconvenience him. That's enough." Marcus had appeared, flanked by the security team. "You need to leave. Now." "I'm not going anywhere until Maya hears what I have to say." Jake turned back to her, desperation making his voice crack. "He's dangerous, Maya. Really dangerous. I've been asking around, hearing stories. People are scared of him. Is that what you want? To be with someone people fear?" Before Maya could respond, the bar's front door opened, and Dominic walked in. He must have sensed something was wrong, because his usual relaxed demeanor was replaced by cold, focused intensity. He took in the scene immediately. Jake agitated and loud, Maya uncomfortable, the entire bar watching. "Problem?" Dominic's voice was quiet, but it carried. Jake went pale. "This doesn't concern you. Anything involving Maya concerns me." Dominic moved to stand beside her, not touching but clearly positioning himself as protection. "And it seems like you're causing a disturbance." "I'm trying to save her from making a huge mistake." Jake's bravado was crumbling, but desperation pushed him forward. "She deserves better than you. She deserves someone who won't drag her into dangerous situations. Someone who shows up at her workplace repeatedly after being asked to stay away." Dominic interrupted. "Someone who makes a scene in a crowded bar? Someone who believes his feelings entitle him to ignore her explicit boundaries? That kind of someone?" Jake had no response to that. "You're going to leave now," Dominic continued, his tone leaving no room for argument. "You're not going to contact Maya again. You're not going to come to her workplace. You're not going to call, text, or otherwise attempt to insert yourself into her life. Are we clear? And if I don't, then you'll discover why people are scared of me." Dominic's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes made Jake step backward. "But I don't think it will come to that. I think you're going to make the smart choice and walk away." For a moment, Jake looked like he might argue. Then, deflating completely, he headed for the door. But at the threshold, he turned back one last time. "I hope he's worth it," he said to Maya, bitter and defeated. "I really hope he's worth what you're giving up." Then he was gone. The bar gradually returned to normal, though Maya could feel the curious glances, hear the whispered conversations. She wanted to disappear, to hide from the attention and speculation. "Are you okay?" Dominic asked quietly. "I don't know," Maya admitted. "That was mortifying. He won't bother you again." "How can you be sure?" "Because I'll make certain of it." He touched her hand briefly. "I'm sorry. This is exactly the kind of complication I warned you about. It's not your fault Jake can't accept that we're over." "No, but he's right about one thing. Being with me makes you a target for speculation and judgment. People will make assumptions, spread rumors. Your life becomes more public, more scrutinized." Maya looked at him, this man who'd disrupted her carefully controlled life in the span of a month, who made her want things she'd convinced herself were impractical, who scared her and excited her in equal measure. "Worth it," she said firmly. "Maya, Jake asked if you're worth it. The answer is yes." She squeezed his hand. "Whatever complications come, whatever people say, you're worth it. This, us, is worth it." Dominic's expression transformed, vulnerability and hope mixing with something deeper. "I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway." He smiled. That rare, genuine smile that made him look younger, less burdened. "Best news I've heard all week." They stood there in the middle of the busy bar, the world continuing around them, and Maya realized something fundamental had shifted. She wasn't just accepting the complications of being with Dominic. She was choosing them. Actively, consciously, with full awareness of the risks. And for someone who'd spent 6 years playing it safe, that choice felt like freedom. 3 days after their first night together, Maya was approached at work by men in suits. "Come with us," Mr. Caruso needs to understand territorial boundaries. The Volkovs, rival family from the south side, took her to a warehouse. Leverage, negotiation tool. When Dominic arrived, fury barely controlled, they demanded, "Withdraw from waterfront territories or she stays." But Maya stood. "Don't negotiate my safety. I won't be your weakness." She turned to the Volkovs. "Threatening me doesn't work. It brings attention neither of you can afford. Release me, negotiate properly, or face consequences." Her courage shifted everything. Alexei Volkov smiled reluctantly. One meeting, proper negotiation. She goes free. Outside, Dominic held her trembling body. "You were extraordinary. I was terrified. Bravery is acting despite fear." The Morning Rose Cafe thrived. Maya's dream realized, financed partially by Dominic's investment, equal partnership, clear boundaries, mutual respect. Evening in their shared apartment, he presented a deed. The building housing, the Copper Rose. "For expansion, for our future." "I love you," Maya whispered. "Marry me," he replied. "Small ceremony, at your cafe." Yes, they'd found each other against impossible odds. A waitress and a protector, building something real from chaos. Complicated. Perfect. Theirs.